this is Adia from Trinity Accountants, and I'll be going through how to process JobKeeper with Xero. Xero has actually released a great platform that takes you through the steps of setting up and processing your payroll within Xero, and I'm just going to be elaborating a little bit further on how that looks for you and just a bit to have following the steps throughout. If you do have any questions that aren't answered or that something that's not, not too savvy with Xero or bookkeeping, please give our office a call. We'll be more than happy to help. So the actual function for the JobKeeper is found within payroll into pay employees. So I'll just be going through a demo file to go through some examples as well. So from there, you'll actually see this small banner, payroll support during COVID-19. If you want to just select on the blue writing, visit our payroll support page, and that'll actually take you through the 7 steps to set up within your file. The first step is actually newly released today, and this is the turnover calculator. It actually extracts the data from your file for March 2019 to March 2020 sale turnover figures to compare whether or not your turnover and downfall of your income makes you eligible for JobKeeper. If you have an active file that has been going throughout this period, these figures will automatically populate for you. If not, you can manually enter them. So for example, if last year you had $15,000 worth of sales, and so far in March, and for March you actually had 8,800, it will actually show that you had a 41% downturn in income, which makes you eligible for JobKeeper, which is really a handy function. Contact your office if you have any questions about that. Okay, so we're just going to go back to the function here, and we're going to keep following through the steps. The next part is the ATO enrollment, which was released yesterday. So if you do have any questions about that, please give our office a call. You can do that through MyGov ID. Our office has access and can register you as your tax LBAS agent. If we're not your accountant, please contact your tax agent to talk to them about getting enrolled. Otherwise, try to access your own MyGov ID account and enroll yourself from there. This will actually tell you whether or not your Xero file is set up with SDP. You will need to be set up with SDP in order to prove that payments are going through to get reimbursed for the JobKeeper payment. Okay, and the last little bit, the next bit will be step 4, which is enroll your employees, which is quite important. So once you've gone through those steps for enrolling on the ATO portal, you'll actually notice which employees are eligible. And right now, you're just going to be opting in to say, once I'm reporting my payroll, my single touch payroll, these are the employees that I've opted in for, and this is the payroll fortnight that I'd like to claim them for. So what they'll actually list is the already existed nominated employees, in my case, potentially eligible employees, and after that, they might actually underneath have listed employees that may not be eligible, and you might need to review some of their details. That could be because their start date, their residence, etc. So just have a look at it and see if they meet the criteria in order to enroll them. In order to set them up, you need to opt into the most relevant pay fortnight. So for you, in your payroll period, if your payment date falls within 30th of March to the 12th of April, you can opt in for that period. There's a second fortnight here, and that might be your first payment period. And that might be relevant if you're maybe doing a monthly payroll. So, and most of our clients actually have weekly or fortnightly. So this will actually apply for them, the 30th of March to the 12th of April. So once you've selected the correct pay period that you want to opt in for, you need to select Save for Reporting. This doesn't make any adjustments in your file. It just advises what single touch payroll period you're going to be reporting for to claim back the JobKeeper. So once this is saved, however, you can't undo this in Xero. You have to contact Xero support to remove it. So be very careful that you're selecting the right period that's relevant for you. So once you have selected it, just select Save for Reporting. And then now you have eligible employees. So do go through the full list of everyone that's available. Okay, so then we'll just go back to the About and go on to step 5. It'll actually take you through the different pay items and setups in the file in order to process the payrolls correctly. So that single touch payroll will report to the right places in the ATO portal. I'll just take you through a summary of it, but by all means, please click on that link and read through the instructions from Xero support. So what they want you to do is you need to separate any top-up payments or stand-down payments, which again is a top-up, as an allowance. You actually have the pay items set up already in Xero, but what I want to do is I want to advise you guys to create your own chart of account separate for the wages and salaries that to be paid as a top up. So we just go to accounting and chart of accounts. And then from there, you can just go add accounts, scroll down to an expense, add your item code. And as you can see here, I've actually created one already and I've called it wages and salaries JobKeeper. If you have any questions, contact your accountant and we can help you or they can help you with that. So the purpose of that is we'd like to separate the wages that you've actually paid out of hand for hours worked versus what you've actually been subsidised for from the government. So what you want to do now is you want to link that to the relevant pay item. So if we go down to your settings on the bottom left, I'm going to just jump into your payroll settings. You'll notice in a lot of your files already that Xero's actually created the correct pay items. I'll jump into pay items here. They've created the allowance pay item for you. So we'll just click into ours here, JobKeeper top up. Okay, and it's already preset the JobKeeper payment top up category allowance. And then from there, it's already got a fixed amount set to it. You want to make sure, however, that you've linked it to the expense account that we've just created, which is your wages and, whoops, excuse me, your wages and salaries account that we've just created. JobKeeper. Okay. So then you also want to make sure that this is exempt. So if they've not worked the hours, they're not entitled to the superannuation. So in order for it not to accrue in Xero, you need to select exempt from superannuation guarantee. After that, we'll just click save. If you haven't already noticed that your Xero file has created that pay item, you can just go through to add, allowance, on the drop down, select the JobKeeper, and then fill out just as we have before. Alrighty. So once that's all created, you can go back to your payroll settings, to the checklist, to the 7-step checklist. Alrighty. So following that, they want you now to report your pay runs to the ATO by filing with SDP. So if you've already processed payrolls up until this date, before the 30th of April, you might need to go back and review whether or not you paid the full 750 for your employees, and then go back and file them. So to do that, you need to do an unscheduled pay run and ensure that the top up is paid out and allocated to that allowance pay item that we've just created. If you have any questions with calculations, though, do give us a call, but I will take you through any payrolls going forward. So we'll go through a couple of examples. So we'll just go through to payroll. I'm going to add a pay run. We're just going to jump into the week ending the 5th of April. And I'm going to take you through an example for Odette. Now, Odette is a part-time employee who is contracted and receiving $400 gross wages, as you can see. We don't want to change anything about the ordinary earnings that you're declaring because it is true and accurate. Odette is working the 20 hours a week. But what we do want to do is we want to provide her the top up to ensure that she gets the $407.50 that's going to be reimbursed. So once you've clicked into her, you can add an earnings line, and from the drop down, select the JobKeeper top up, select OK, and just pop the additional $350 into that. Might take a moment for it to calculate, as it does, but you'll note here that PAYG is calculated on the full $750, but the superannuation is only calculated on the gross ordinary earnings. You do want to ensure, regardless of the ordinary hours, that the correct leave accruals are calculating on this payroll. Because this is a new function, a new feature, there are a little bit of faults in the system at the moment, so just ensure that everything that you're processing in your payroll, is true and correct. Okay, the next example we'll go through is Oliver. I'll just go from the drop down at the top to Oliver. So I'll just go down to save and next. Okay, so Oliver is a full-time employee who is working the 38 hours and is receiving above the $750. So no adjustments need to be made there. There's no extra declaring because you've opted in the settings. You've also enrolled and registered him. There's nothing to change here. So we're all okay to go ahead with his payroll. But I'm going to go through another scenario as if Oliver was stood down. So if Oliver stood down and he's only going to be receiving a 750 gross payment, what you're going to want to do is add an earnings line and select the JobKeeper top up. Same pay item, adding the 750 gross, and you're going to select the X to deselect the original ordinary hours. Give it a moment to load, but noting that $96 is calculated on the PAYG is calculated on the 750 gross, but there's no superannuation accrued. That's quite important there. You can obviously opt in, but understandable if most businesses don't because you're not obliged to. You scroll right down to the bottom, what you can see here is because we've actually removed the 38 hours, annual leave isn't accruing correctly. So you're going to always need to manually adjust this. And in order to do this, you're just going to select Add Earnings Line. You're going to select Annual Leave and go OK. And then you're just going to manually type in the correct accruals applicable. Oops, 2.923. And you're going to actually unselect the original accruals line. You can do the same thing for your personal leave, of course, and save and next. Okay, so that completes our payroll. I'm just going to post the pay run. So again, very important, if you have set up your file for single touch payroll, you're just going to select File, send through your declaration and submit. Okay, so going back to our pay employees, going through from there, and the next step will obviously be your monthly declarations with your ATO portal. So if you do have any employees, any directors or any trustee beneficiaries or anything else like that that's not applicable within Xero that you have opted in for, there are additional ways to report outside of Xero. So please give our office a call if you do have any questions about the process, and we'd be more than happy to help.